Hello, my name is Karen Wachenheim, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about my story and my sister-in-law Cynthia Wachenheim's story. My story began almost 11 years ago after the birth of my first son. I had a horrible time after he was born. I was constantly crying, couldn't sleep, I was anxious all the time. I didn't know what to do. I was beside myself. Finally, my sister-in-law Cindy, who I was very close with, suggested that maybe I had postpartum depression and should seek help. I did just that and had help from my doctor within days and began correct medications and felt better within a few short weeks. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cindy's story. March 13th, 2013 will be a date we will never forget. It was the day our lives were shattered and a piece of our hearts were gone forever. It is the day that Cindy took her own life by jumping out her 8-story apartment building window in New York City with her infant son strapped to her chest due to what we now believe to be postpartum psychosis. Miraculously, the baby survived with barely a scratch. Unfortunately, Cindy did not. I will never forget the phone call from their other sister Debbie to give us the news. I'm glad I had sent my older son upstairs without me because I knew in my gut something was wrong. I remember screaming and thinking, no, not Cindy. Cindy would never take her own life and certainly never harm her child that she loved more than anything. She called him my heart. She wanted a child more than anything. She didn't meet her husband until her late 30s, and then she was over 40 when they were married. They began trying to have a baby almost immediately, as she knew with her age it might be difficult to get pregnant. It did, so they went through IVF treatments a few times until she finally got pregnant and it stuck. She was just elated. The pregnancy was normal and he was born in May 2012. She didn't show any visible signs of postpartum until about 4 months later. She thought something was wrong with the baby. She thought he was having seizures. She took him to the pediatrician and then to a specialist. They did tests and said everything was fine. She didn't believe them, so she took him to another specialist. It seemed that no matter what any doctor said, she didn't believe them. She would look on the internet and diagnose him with something else. At first we were worried something was wrong with the baby. Then we realized something was going on with Cindy. She was not herself. The woman we knew, so full of life, so positive, so friendly, and so caring, was changing. We tried to tell her that maybe she had postpartum, but she didn't believe it. She thought that couldn't happen 4 months after the baby is born. All she could believe at this point that the baby was brain damaged and it was her fault, because the baby had bonked his head on the floor a couple times. We did finally convince her to seek some help, but she went because she was depressed, because she believed she harmed her child and ruined his life. I even suggested that Karen go down to New York City to meet with her to offer help in finding the correct providers and information to guide her, but Cindy refused. Even though I had postpartum myself, I didn't realize just how severe it could get and knew nothing about postpartum psychosis. She even had said to me one time that at this point the baby would have been better off not being born than being brain damaged, and that she ruined his life. I tried to convince her that even if he was, although I knew he wasn't, but wanted her to feel like someone believed her so she didn't feel alone, that he could still have a good life, because we would all be there to make sure of it. It didn't matter what we said or did. In November 2012, she seemed to be at her worst when she spent the week with us for Thanksgiving. We were all very worried about her. In January, when she was visiting for my younger son's birthday, she seemed better. Now I think she was just trying to hide it because she felt that everyone just thought she was crazy. I have so many what-ifs in my head that I can probably never get out of my head, but deep down I know that it was the disease that took her. We lost Cindy before we lost her. It has now become part of my lifetime goals to help change how the world sees postpartum. We need to bring awareness, education, and more options for women and their families. There needs to be screenings for women before, during, and after pregnancy. The OBGYN, primary care, and pediatricians need to be aware of what to look for and what options are available to assist women who need help. Whether it's just the baby blues or it is severe as postpartum psychosis, These women need to know it's okay, it's not their fault. They are not alone and there is help and support for them. As a family, last year, in Cindy's memory, we made a substantial donation to Health Literacy for All to allow Karen to provide education and mental health classes on pregnancies, healthy babies, and mental illness.